everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTrain.tv, where every day at this time slot, 1 o'clock. Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. Very exciting today. We have guests from other places that will be joining us momentarily. We'll give them the official welcoming moment. So upcoming, if you go to FMTrain.tv, you can see the upcoming broadcast schedules. Margaret's on here with me as well because today is going to be an action-packed day. All right, broadcast schedule today. We got FMPerception, FMComparison, and FM 3D amazing thingy-majigger, right? We're going to see that momentarily here. In fact, it's pretty neat. A lot of you are going to be blown away, right? With that in mind, we remind everyone briefly here that the live streams are free, but if you want to support the channel, definitely go over to FMTrain.tv, press the bundles button, purchase one of the training packages we have here. So on the subscriptions, that's how you show your appreciation and love. Now, our guest speaker today is Dave or David? David, which Ramsey? Which way do you play that one, Dave? What do we call you officially?
Dave works fine.
Dave works
but
fine.
Hey you is effective as well.
Hey you, I'm very flexible. Some people get really excited if I don't call them exactly, by the first God-given name that their parents had them once upon a time, right? So it's like, okay, if it's not David R.L. Ramsey the fifth, I'm in deep. So we don't want to have that happen. So, how are you, Dave? You good?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. So everyone understands the backstory, what happened. So some of my engineers were at Claris Engage, which was the developer conference in Texas, I don't know, a month and a half ago. And what was really interesting about it was that they came back and said, Proof+Geist had this amazing gee whiz 3D thing where you could visualize the layouts. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What kind of weird black magic are you talking about? And so Dave, you are a product designer, a product owner, a product manager at Proof+Geist. Can you give me a little backstory on who you are and what you're doing?
So I'm actually independent.
Okay. Well, you're wearing their shirt. That's why it kind of gives it away.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I am independent. I make tools for FileMaker developers. Proof+Geist is my publisher.
Okay. That makes perfect sense.
Publish my stuff, handle the tech support and the store and whatever, leaving me free to just make cool stuff.
Wow, that's an awesome job. That's a very cool job. Yeah. So are you the creator of the 3D layout super amazing tool? Is that your product?
It is my product. I built the kind of shell of the app. I have another developer who did the UI portions of it, the JavaScript interface, especially the 3D rendered portion.
Okay. So, but effectively, so I can call it loosely a Proof+Geist solution or tool
Absolutely.
or application. They're your publisher, and you are, along with multiple other people. Successful products are almost rarely one person's creation. It's a team of people that create them. So, but you happen to be the spokesman for the team at this moment. So we're going to call it your product just for simplicity.
Sure.
So we have so this is a free product, I guess. We should go ahead and probably look at your screen and and dive into this and see what's going on, because I think people's heads will be exploded. They just hear this popping sound as heads explode. So if you want to show your screen, I'm going to stop sharing mine. We're going to jump to you, and why don't we jump and show your screen? That would be really cool. So what is this app? What are we looking at?
So this app is called FMLayoutLens. This is a native app with a JavaScript, HTML, CSS GUI. And it's inspired by an app that I made many years ago before I formed the partnership with Proof+Geist, called FM X-Ray Specs, if you ever saw that, which was an app that just used the clipboard XML. It doesn't require a DDR. It doesn't require the new XML. You just copy some stuff in FileMaker and paste it. So if I come over to FileMaker and take this layout here, select all the objects, hit copy, come back over to FMLayoutLens and hit Command-V, and there you go. So we've got FileMaker's tree view here, the hierarchy.
Okay.
We've got a FMPerception-esque grid view showing all the items. And if I select something, I'll see details over here. So I can select this and it's showing me this thing right here selected. Let me select that one. So you can click in any of these 3 regions and it will select it. Where this gets really interesting is this is a fully 3D rendered exploded view of your layout. So I can click things here, and here's the tab control. I can see all the properties of it over here. We've got separate tabs for details. And the big thing here, let me cover a couple more things. If you want to, like right now I've got the thing centered, which is nice. And when I click, it will reposition to center that object. But if I want it to not do that, so I can just quickly click across things, I can hit manual, and now clicking doesn't recenter the view, but double clicking does. We can also extend the distance between objects. The big thing here is, like, I love FMPerception. I love the kind of data forward aspect of a lot of these kinds of tools. But the biggest limitation has always been that if I say, oh, this object is at 137 pixels down and 347 pixels to the right, that's nice for finding the thing, but this lets it actually highlight the object, recenter on the object, and really bring that to your attention. So looking for an object, for example, I can say, I want to look at all the objects on this layout that have object names. So this is the one I'm looking for. Which object let me switch off of auto. So which is that one? That one right there. That's the object. The label is calculated for availability, but the object name is availability. I just found exactly where that was, and all I had to do was copy the layout objects and paste them. The other fun thing here is that I'm not required to do a select all and grab all the objects. I can just grab some of them, hit paste. Now I've got just that section.
Okay, so comments are, we have Yum, absolutely amazing. Hot Air Balloon Kin's excited. Larry the Marine is on the porch trying to catch his breath. Canberra 57 says Hotel Sierra. Some of you can figure out what that is. Mikey says, as a 3D visual person, this really opens up a real world view of the layout structure. WJ Warner, shock and awe, right? Yeah, everyone's like amazed by this. These people, most of the people here we're talking to did not go to Engage. They have not seen this. So
the other thing that we were demoing at the booth at Engage was we pulled this section out, and you could actually see this in VR. We had VR headsets for demo purposes, and so you can actually kind of step physically inside your layout.
Okay, David Angel says that if it doesn't support Windows, that he really hates you. Does it support Windows?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, sometimes we come on the show here and the Windows people, just don't feel the love that maybe they should otherwise feel. So
no, that's part of how our tech stack is the way it is. The behind the scenes work is all done in cross-platform C# and .NET, and the UI is all done in HTML, JavaScript, CSS, so that about 90% of the code base is cross-platform. And so we've only got to do the little bit that does like menus and the exact way you interact with the clipboard. That's the only part that isn't cross-platform. And so that's what this is really designed to give us the ability to do, is iterate on it very quickly and do cool stuff.
You would use this it's how much of an angle can you turn that? You can turn it quite a bit, right? Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So
just barely to a less useful angle. You can't get much data from there, but
no, but yeah.
And it looks even better on a really large display. I've got this screen res down a little bit, but if you can really blow up your screen, also with the HTML interface, we get access to things like, oh, well, it's not there yet. The ability to increase text size and things like that, which is really helpful. This is a early release. This isn't really 1.0 yet.
Really?
There's still some work that we have to do. For example, we're not yet, I'm parsing it, we're not displaying it yet, all the conditional formatting on the currently selected
that would
object.
be so awesome. As you interacted, you could watch things do, change, and the hidden state, that's the other one. Hidden states and conditional formatting are the two.
Yeah, we've even got
I saw something about script
all
triggers.
the properties on one display, so you can quickly see what's going on with the currently selected object. Stuff like that. But again, conditional formatting isn't there. The script triggers aren't there quite yet. They'll get there. And this is a completely free app. We really put this together as a celebration of the return to Engage, having in-person Engage again. We wanted to share this with everybody because we just thought it was so cool, and gating that behind some nominal fee just didn't seem reasonable. If you do not have FMPerception installed on that machine, then you will get when you open a new window in FMLayoutLens, you will get hey, if you like this, you should really check out FMPerception thing. And you say okay, and then you've got full functionality. There's nothing locked behind.
So to be clear, this is a FileMaker. I guess one of my engineers there is I don't know if he's trolling me or what he's doing. The data is coming out of a layout in FileMaker Pro. He wants to know if this is Linux compatible, and I'm like, well, is FileMaker Pro Linux compatible, right? At the desktop, Linux desktop, right? Well,
that's one of the limitations. It also can't run, for example, on iOS, because even though we have FileMaker Go doesn't have a layout mode. You have to be able to copy layout objects into the clipboard to get the data over to here.
He says he's one of the two people that's mad about that. That's kind of funny. And Jacob Taylor too. Both of you guys are my Unix people who want everything in Linux. So this is a free. I was talking to Dave because we haven't chatted with Dave. I haven't talked to Dave in a lot of years, actually, in a meaningful way. And Dave's a great guy, and this tool is free, which means that we are showing you something you can have for free right now. So if people want to download this right now, how do they do that?
Go to FMLayoutLens.com. And because during the early development process, we kept misspelling lens by throwing an extra E on the end, we got that domain name as well. So you can misspell lens slightly and it will still work.
There you go. I like that too. Cool. Well, that's pretty awesome, and it does a lot. And I think this is, especially if I could see like conditional formatting and hidden things and whatnot, those are, to me, would be great. If you could do stuff like in FileMaker, almost have it like almost live. I know we could copy paste this pretty quick, but change the situation and as almost like I'll tell you where this would be perfectly cool. And I'm not asking for you to build this, but I guess, if Claris was bored and they had nothing to work on and they wanted to make a great thing, but if you had the script debugger and as the script was going and executing through, it would show you for each step what the rendering of that layout would look like based upon the certain criteria as you're executing. Does that make sense? Almost like a step by step by step. Even if you had to write a script that would copy the layout in each of those scenarios, paste them into your tool, then you could play it sequentially. I could see that being hugely helpful. That would be.
So one of my fantasy FileMaker features.
Okay, I'm fantasizing now. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
No. It's fine because I love talking about this stuff. One of my fantasy FileMaker features is a design surface API. It's a FMP dev : / API where you can send requests and get back information about the current state of the developer surface. Maybe the current state of the debugger, maybe the current layout, XML, things like that you could just ask for and get from an external application would be fantastic. I actually wrote an application one time that was a debugger recorder. So you would start a script in the debugger and it would record the state of the debugger at every single step of the operation, including recording the value of all current and watched variables in the data viewer. And so when the thing was, and it would just it would step forward through the script until the script was done. And so at the end, you could look at it and go, okay, this was supposed to run 10 times. It only ran 9 times. Let me look at what the variable values were at the end of the loop. Okay, I see how I messed up my loop end conditions. Let's move on. Wow. It all worked. It worked fantastically until the very next version of FileMaker, and it broke all of the UI scripting that I was doing.
And that, of course, that was probably very depressing for you. So
it was, but I understand entirely how it happens. But yes, that's the kind of thing that we could build with a developer surface API.
Yeah,
but you can't run a copy script step, like a copy layout script step, while you're in a run mode. You can't get, once you go into layout mode, scripts don't work.
That's right.
So
well, yeah, this is almost like a great proof of concept. They take it down to Claris and slap them around a little bit. They look how cool this is. What do we need to do to make this like a ongoing kind of a permanent thing? Because they don't have to build the two; they just have to build the hook, so your tool can get in there and do its job. So this is free for everyone, so you understand. And at the same time, this is from David Ramsey, who is an independent guy, but Proof+Geist is his publisher, and he has other tools that he has made. So if you want to watch Dave do his pitch now on some of his other products that are not necessarily free, I think given the fact he's given us this for free, I mean, I'm willing to watch any demo he has. So because clearly he's inspired, he's a visionary, and he has an idea where this could go. This is really exciting. So,
well,
questions from anyone? Questions along the way, Margaret? Do you have a question? Margaret, you've been doing this stuff. Do you have a question?
No, this is very cool. I'm excited to see the script triggers when that becomes a thing, because I keep tripping over. I'm going to rephrase that, but let's say a bad word. I'm going to keep tripping over myself into script triggers constantly. I only think that I meandered my way into like 4 of them the other day when I was trying to do a basic.
Yeah, well, one of the columns that I found here is there's in the grid, and this is functional, there's a has script triggers column that would give you a little dot like this if there were script triggers on that object, and you can sort by that property. This particular layout doesn't have any, but you could see how it would work with, say, tooltips. All of these items have tooltips, which means all of these items do not. And so I can just go here and click down through them.
One of the things that came up the other day when we were wrestling with, because Margaret's working on a customer solution, is that we could see that there was a trigger. Margaret, remember when you were layout? You were at the layout manager in FileMaker.
Yeah, it only tells you if there's a layout enabled trigger, not if there are triggers on the layout. Those are 2 different things.
An object enabled versus a layout enabled, right? That was
yeah.
And so if just as a suggestion, since we're being greedy, asking for free, right? I know how people are with that. Yeah, it's so free. Give me more free stuff. With script triggers, to be the most useful would be if you knew they were layout level specific, object specific, and then I guess peripherally would be kind of file based ones. But just so you knew which one you were looking at, right, or where to hunt for it, because
right. So using this mechanism, we can't get the layout level ones because there's no way to copy the entire layout. You can only copy objects on a layout. So this won't help you with layout level script triggers.
Okay, got it. All right, well, I'm just...
As another example, this doesn't have layout parts. It doesn't tell you where the body is and the header is, because you can't copy those. You can only copy the objects on the layout, not the layout parts.
Ah, yes, that's a true statement. Yeah, it's that suddenly you think about it, right? Those the parts of the layout are kind of glued on, and you can't really monkey with them too much. All right, cool. Well, any questions about the FMLayoutLens before we pivot forward to the next part of the conversation? Anyone?
I don't see questions. I think the universal reaction is, oh my God, this is insanely cool, which it is.
Lynn from Austin says, what is the slider on the left side for?
That is a size slider. So
Gotcha.
if you're in a situation where you can't use a scroll wheel or something like that, or you want to really dial in, this is in some ways a little more accurate than a slider.
Okay, so
than the scroll wheel.
So Hot Air Balloon Ken got really greedy with the next question. Can I make changes and then on your tool to the layout and then copy and paste them back into FileMaker?
At this point, no. And I will also say that until we get a copy paste of layout objects that is non-destructive, you won't see it from me. So basically, when you copy and paste a bunch of layout objects, certain things don't make the trip. The most famous of which is the tab order. The tab order is broken. And I don't want to be responsible for breaking people's layouts because they used my tool to edit one property. I've seen it happen too many times, and so I'm not going to go into that until at some hypothetical point in the future, you can copy all the objects on a layout, edit that XML, paste it back in, and every single property makes the trip.
You know, we've been seeing a recurring theme here sometimes with Claris. They build these tools, and they're I don't want to say not fully fleshed out, but a lot of times they build things and they really don't take them to the logical full extension of it. So for example, we have this XML version 2, which is a serialization. So the idea is to be able to take your FileMaker file and precisely turn it into text code. So it's with perfect fidelity is the word I like to use when describing this. The idea is that you can take a FileMaker file, you turn to a text file, maybe you change a couple of values in the text file, and then you rematerialize it back the other way as a complete FMP12 file, right? And whenever we do that, I call it the Star Trek transporter, but it's like, 100 years before Star Trek comes out. And so as you beam things across, you lose fingers or ear or something. A body part doesn't make the trip. And in an emergency, I'd rather be alive and me missing a finger than I would be, otherwise. But yeah, you don't want to willingly push something through there and it's destructive. Something doesn't make the trip. David said that perfectly. I think that's it for questions. So we want to pivot forward to the next topic. What do we want to cover?
Let's talk about FMPerception. FMPerception is a tool for Mac and Windows, for your Windows people, that looks at the XML DDR and surfaces tons and tons of data. Okay. So here's the DDR. As a matter of fact, I've been using FM Starting Point as my demo solution for 8 years now.
Okay. That's a really old one, just for the record, right? We understand that, right? Okay.
Yes. I've altered this file subtly for certain demo purposes and things like that. But the reason I use FM Starting Point is anybody can get a hold of it. So if you want to see how this performs on your machine and use the same test data that I am, that's a thing that you can do. But it's a pretty big system with a lot of features in it. So I'm not testing it with a FileMaker starter solution or something like that. There's a lot going on here. It's by no means the biggest FileMaker solution around, but it is definitely non-trivial.
I'm non-trivial. I like that, Margaret. I am non-trivial. I like that. Good.
So I can just open the summary file, and that's the import process for FMPerception.
Okay.
It's ready to go.
Wow.
That's all it takes to import FM Starting Point. So if I want to go in and say, okay, show me all the tables. Here's all the tables. Which is my biggest table? Okay, it's this one. Let me drill in there and show me the fields. And so here's the fields. Was anybody adding? Okay, we got some field comments. That's good. Okay, here's my unstored calculations, this kind of stuff.
Okay.
that kind of performance.
Okay, the number one thing that I use, and I don't use these tools like, because I don't get the code as much as I'd like to. I get the code maybe a day a week if I'm lucky. But for me, it's always finding out, like, is this script abandoned? And I'm not talking about like indirection kind of stuff. I'm talking about just, that makes sense what I'm saying? So is the script abandoned? Is anything referencing it? Is the layout abandoned? Is anything referenced? Those are the two big ones by far.
So for example, I can go into scripts. Let's find a big script, and I can say, look for references to this script. It is referenced by one button. There you go. There's also a section down here with unreferenced objects. So if you want to find all the scripts that have no references to them, you can drill in there and find that list.
Oh, so it's going to proactively show me all the abandoned things. So, I mean, I use base elements a lot, so it's a little bit me personally, and I'm just saying that's my experience, but this seems faster in terms of performance, right?
I look at FMPerception in relation to base elements and Inspector Pro as kind of a apples and oranges comparison. Now, bear in mind, apples and oranges is not a value-based comparison. It is a different way of looking at the problem. Okay. So base elements and Inspector Pro are fantastic pieces of software. I don't have a bad word to say about them, aside from the fact that they didn't work the way I wanted a tool like this to work. I wanted something that could give me the answer that I needed about the current state of my system and let me get back to work. And I wanted it to do that quickly. And none of the other tools could really do that. FMPerception is me building the tool that I always wanted as a FileMaker developer. So if I export the DDR, I open a new FMPerception window, I open this, it loads, I go in, I find the particular script, let me say setup, this print page setup, and I want to see how it fits into the overall flow of the application.
Whoa.
Now, that's all I needed. This answers my question, and I can go back to work. I don't want to spend an hour in FMPerception looking around at stuff. That's not what it's optimized for. It's optimized for a very tight usage loop. From the perspective that the whole thing is written in native code. This is Swift from the ground up on Mac and C# from the ground up on Windows.
Okay, wait. Stop for a second. Just stop. Just stop.
I had to finish the thought.
I'm fine. I'm being a demanding customer. So I said I want to see scripts and layouts that maybe aren't referenced. But then I also have those scenarios where I have a script, like Margaret did this the other day. So we're having a junior training moment. And I go, Margaret, build this thing for this customer. And she takes a layout that's already in use and a script that's already loose, and she starts adapting it. I said, Margaret, what about you're affecting other things that were already going? And she goes, what? And I go, yeah, there's already a layout and a script that they were in there for a reason. We don't know why they were in there. They're in there for a reason, and you take it and you tweak them. So while your new thing works, you might have retroactively broke something. Right? There we go. Yep. Right? And so this right here, on your example right here, is you're showing that not only is the script referenced, it's graphically showing us rapidly all the other things that are referencing it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's navigable. So this is just like I had picked the script from that list. I can redraw the call chain diagram from the perspective of that script. So let me look at it from this
Margaret,
one.
Stop. You're going too fast.
There you go.
This is extremely cool. Wait, what's happening here? Is it telling you?
Okay, I'm telling you. Okay, David, I love you. The junior people, you just blew their heads up. Can you go back one to that call chain where you were in the middle? Just go back.
There.
One. Okay, hold. Okay, Margaret. So I'm going to say this out loud, and David's going to correct me if I'm wrong. So we press a button somewhere probably on the so left or right. We read, at least in English, left or right. I'm assuming that we press a button on 1104 on the left. On the left, we have 1104. then that, for whatever reason, is going to call 1104 alpha, which is the one that we're interested in. That's why it's bold. Do I have that right so far?
Yeah, that's 1104 alpha is the one we clicked on.
Yes, and it's showing the one that called it, and it's also showing the ones that could be fired behind it, Margaret, because it's in the middle. It's called a call stack. I haven't taught really the junior people about call stacks too much because it's kind of you start to learn about it almost through osmosis. But if you have script A that calls B, that calls C, that calls D, A, B, C, D is a sequence or a stack of scripts that will execute beginning to end. Okay.
Is this like tripping over a script trigger, or is this like other scripts being called by the same script inside of the other script?
Other scripts being called by the same script or scripts that it contains.
Right.
So this is not triggers.
It's a subscript, right? A trigger could start at Margaret at 1104, but once it's basically saying once the dominoes start rolling at 1104, you push the one domino down, they start going, down the way. It's going to hit 1104A, then it can fork and hit 1105 or 0028, and then 1105 might then end up at 0028. It shows you the entire sequence. It's like a lot of times I will write a script, David, I'll number them, and then I'll do A and B and C and D, just so in my shorthand that I know that they're somehow interactive with each other. They're connected somehow. They're a family that executes.
Absolutely.
All right, so Jessie is fairly new to the channel here. She says she loves the speed. My DDR usually breaks. Chrome and Firefox Perception is super zippy. So back up. Jessie, you're using FMPerception. Is that true? I'm talking to Jessie. Is it true? Someone here recommended it. So now do you recommend what David has done, or do you think we should use a different product? Nothing like setting someone up, right, on live TV. What do you really think about this, right? It's like you go to a political candidate. Do you hate kittens and puppies, and do you want to have poisonous bad air? It's like, who says yes to that? No one ever says yes to that. So, I love the loaded question. She loves it. She uses it daily. So we have multiple endorsements on the Discord side of people telling us how great David is. That's nice, David. You showed up. You have your own fan base here.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Again, to go back to the apples and oranges thing, I think they're both fantastic tools. It's just a question of what you're using it for. So if I was getting ready to do a 6-month major overhaul of a system, I might well use Base Elements or Inspector Pro to get my baseline, to use their note-taking abilities and things like that to plan the thing out, and then take a couple of kind of time slices throughout the course of the project. But multiple times a day while I'm working on it, I'm going to export a new clean DDR and pull that into FMPerception because I can. And then I'm always getting the latest and greatest data, not trying to say, okay, well, the last import into Base Elements was 2 days ago, and I think I remember everything that's happened since then.
Yes.
Use the tool for what it's good for, and use a different tool if this one doesn't meet your needs for a particular task.
Hot Air Balloon Ken says this thing is wicked fast, and I think it's easier to get what you need, as David is explaining. Jessie says, thank you for making it Windows friendly. She's a Windows shop. John Eisen says, will this show, is a question for you, besides everyone telling you how great you are, will this show a circular reference in an obvious way, like a big circle or something? Like, say, if 0028 goes back and calls 1104, say, by accident or something.
Right. No, it doesn't, but let me show you kind of what it will show. So if I hover over something like this, I can see that there's actually 2 different ways kind of to get here. So this 907A can be called from 907, or it can be kind of invoked itself and has its own subpath. So you will see if the same chain has the same script appearing in multiple places, different ways that it can be gotten to.
All right, cool. Well, no one said the questions would be easy. I can see that being a hard one to visualize, right? So
yeah, yes, definitely. Here's another fun one to blow your mind. Here we go. Custom functions. Have you ever migrated a custom function from one system to another, and you break it because it depended upon another custom function?
I did that last week.
Well, there you go. How would you like to never, ever do that again?
I would really love it if you would help me never do that again.
Yeah. So here is a custom function. This is from the FileMaker Sugar collection, or SQL Sugar collection of custom functions. And so I can see that this function calls these two functions, one of which is itself, because it's a recursive function, and it's called by two functions. Again, one of them is itself. But what I really want to see is everything that has to move as a group, and that's the function family. So this spiders up and down the call chain, starting from param, and finds every function that has to move as a unit for all of their definitions to remain intact.
Oh, I like that.
So in a perfect world, I could just kind of move these over.
Yeah.
But in FMPerception, I can. So you select them all, hit right-click, and say copy for FileMaker. This will load it into the clipboard as if you had copied it out of a FileMaker system. And if you paste these four into FileMaker together, none of their definitions will break. FileMaker is smart enough to do that when you paste in multiple functions. This works from FMPerception for anything that FileMaker supports copy and paste for. So tables, fields, scripts, script steps, layout objects, custom functions, value lists, and the 3 different tiers of custom menus. You can just copy and paste them. And in a lot of cases, opening the DDR in FMPerception to grab these things is dramatically faster than opening another FileMaker system to copy them out of. Because you don't have to deal with the passwords and things like that. As long as you've already got the DDR, just crack it open in FMPerception.
David Angel has a question. The Sugar collection of custom functions, what are you talking about? That's not like Brian Dunning. That's kind of like the name that normally comes up. So what is Sugar collection?
Yeah, the SQL Sugar was a set of custom functions to aid in the creation of execute SQL statements that will not break if you rename a field or something like that. I'm not sure how regularly they're being used these days. This is one of the alterations that I made to my version of FM Starting Point because I couldn't easily find a custom function in Starting Point that had a real tree, a bunch of functions that had to work together.
Yeah, I
in general is a good thing.
Yeah, I try to keep my life simple as much as possible. But I could tell I've been there because I make custom functions with just name of colors that I want, right?
Yep.
So, of course, being the very simple, lazy person that I am, there we go. All right.
Yeah, right there.
Lynn from Austin says, thank you, Dave. I have used FMPerception for years. Lynn, did he pay you to come here and say this? I mean, let's just be clear about this, is that, you're supposed to be authentic endorsements. I really like how much you can do a text search, and it will search in a calc to find things like the value list name used in value list items. So that's Lynn from Austin, who is a Windows user again, right? So,
yep. So here's text search, and let's see, do not release. This was a trick that the folks at Proof+Geist were using, where if you're working on something that's going to have release versions, but you want to tag and say, this isn't ready to release until I've fixed these specific problems, you can just stick as a single word, do not release, somewhere in the object. In a comment, here is a comment script step. Here's some text on a layout. Here is a field with a comment in the definition. And so before you do a release, you can just open the DDR in FMPerception, do a quick search for do not release, and find if anybody, really good for interacting with a team that's working on one system. You can find out, even if the person isn't there that day, even if they don't remember that they haven't finished that thing, it's still tagged in the system until somebody resolves it. And once you've cleared this list, then it's safe to release. Let me hit a couple other high points here. Here's a list of all the global variables in the system. How many times each is used, and I can drill in to see all the places where that particular global variable was used. I also added FileMaker's global variables are not case sensitive. So you can type it in all caps or all lowercase, and FileMaker treats that as the exact same global variable. But I think it's, something that could be fixed. So here is places where the global variable is used with different cases and the number of times each case was used. I like this for
cool.
managing like a junior developer. If you want to check up on their stuff and see if they're maintaining your global variable standards as far as naming goes. And then I
have a question, and so this gets into like some secret stuff, but I've talked to Claris about this, so they let me play around the edges a little more dangerously than I would otherwise. So we have local variables and global variables, and are you looking at supporting if they introduce? I haven't got the final word if they're going to support a new type of variable. They've been kicking it around for 21-24. I don't know if it's official yet. Or I guess the question is, you're going to rev this for FileMaker 21/24, right? Is that a true statement? Okay.
Yeah.
And so people ask me why we call it 21/24. That's because Claris calls it 21 or 24. Depends on which part of the company you ask. It's same product, two different names. And I'm not being mean. I'm being dead serious. And also, David says it's faster than, there's a conversation. David says it's faster than maybe other tools. And it works with Windows, which is nice. So, yeah, we have a number of Windows people here.
FMPerception is actually faster than the HTML DDR. When you ask FileMaker for an HTML DDR, it first exports the XML DDR, then runs it through a bunch of XSLT to turn it into the HTML DDR. And the time that it takes to convert the XML to HTML is longer than the time it takes FMPerception to just open the XML.
There is a question right here. I'm going to pivot. So Larry the Marine asked a good question and I know I was thinking this and Larry said it out loud, so I'm going to have to repeat it now since he said it. Base elements cautions about unreferenced. So when we look at something that's abandoned, we're trying to identify abandoned things. Base elements will say, hey, there's no official references to this, but caution is advised because there may be unreferenced items that reference it by calculation or something like that. I mean, that's just the fundamental of physics, right? In terms of Larry, right? So when you say there's nothing referencing it, the same thing applies. More of a juniorish kind of question. The same rule applies. We haven't changed the laws of physics. If someone references a layout by a calculation, right? And so then these tools can't conceive of what that might call, what layout might call out of that calculation, right? So. Yeah. Do you notate
that field
that
by
here?
name?
Yeah.
Go to layout by name.
Yes.
Go to layout by number. Those kinds of things don't create references. There's a blog post on the Proof+Geist site about the difference between unreferenced and unused. Other good examples are things like if there's a PHP interface to this database, it might be referencing fields and scripts and layouts, and there's literally nothing anywhere in the FileMaker database that knows about that.
I totally agree with that. So just to pick up that conversation, so as a reminder, if you have layouts specifically like in our solutions where we drive like the FM training, and that you saw that schedule that popped up, that's driven out of a data API, XML, and it's looking at specific layouts. We have a folder in our copy of Starting Point we use to manage that, and the folder name is called Web Referenced Layouts. Do not touch or your fingers will be cut off by Jacob Taylor. And so don't change anything in there because even though the utility like base elements or inspector or this tool right here, which is it's based on your name. What do you call it? This is
this is FMPerception.
Perception, telepathic perception. They can't tell you what the external references are, but it might be there, so be careful. And I think the trick to that is making sure that when you create those things as a professional developer, you put them in a confined area or a folder where we know that everything in there is just like untouchable. Do not touch it. Even if you think you should clean it up, just don't.
That's one answer. The answer that I usually give people is make a script that the first step is exit script. And then after that, make a bunch of steps that say go to layout. that go to those layouts.
So you're creating a fake reference that yeah.
Absolutely. You can do that to other scripts. You can do that to fields you want to hang on to or tables that shouldn't be touched because they're only ever indirectly referenced. Another good example of that here is we've got the number of layout objects that use a particular style, but there's a notation down here about layout part styles. And if we look over in the sidebar here, the DDR does not contain layout parts. They're not in the DDR. It's one of the things that the DDR is missing. And because it doesn't have the layout parts, it has no place to tell you that a layout part style is being used. So even though this looks like it has no references to it, don't delete them because you'd never know for sure if it's being used or not. Now, granted, none of the other styles here are being used either, so it's probably a pretty good chance that these layout part styles aren't being used, but that isn't always going to be the case. So be careful with those.
So Jesse, I think, is asked a follow-up question, not about the part style so much, I don't think. I think she was asking about can you just jump the FileMaker and show real quick a script where you would just create a fake reference script just to keep the utilities from kind of losing their minds, I guess. So
sure. Script workspace, make a script, references to otherwise unreferenced objects.
Great name.
And then I go exit script because I don't want this to ever do any of the things I'm about to follow. And then I say go to layout, inventory list.
Whatever.
There you go. I now have a reference to this layout.
So now because this script is in here, Jesse, then what happens is it doesn't show up as being unreferenced, right? So and this is how you
script from list. And here's another thing. Include a reference to this, to this script. So that this script itself, and it just makes things disappear from your unreferenced list. And so, I used to use like naming conventions, like all my PHP scripts had a PHP underscore prefix or something like that, just so I didn't accidentally delete them. Your folder idea is great, but this makes it so that it just disappears from any analysis tools.
So Jessie says, she leaves a comment as a breadcrumb in the scripts because she has a memory of a goldfish. I'm really big on that myself, leaving lots of comments. Ken says, this is a great tip. And he's one of the recurring personalities on our show. He runs a hot air balloon big event, and they register pilots and hot air balloons and all that FAA legal stuff that goes on with that. So other questions? We're gonna have to bring David back to cover another product he has at some point. He has, I think, another one or two, but
I'll mention it briefly. FMComparison is a diff tool for FileMaker systems, and it is included with the purchase of FMPerception. I highly recommend that developers start doing diffs. It would take an entire discussion to talk about all the different ways that diffing is useful to FileMaker developers, but because we haven't had a way to do it quickly, it's not something that we're used to doing. But I have users who spend almost more time in FMComparison than they do in FMPerception, just because of how it presents changes to a system.
Interesting. David Angel has a question. So this FMPerception could show a button reference scripts, right? I mean, well, if you have a button that reference scripts, then it's referenced, right? So you don't have to worry about that. And it could show all the scripts called in a layout. I mean, the tool already does that. Perception does that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. If you want to show that real quick, I'm going to move
objects. Here's our biggest one. So here's the scripts that are referenced on this layout in any context. All the scripts from this layout.
All right, real quick. So people want to buy FMPerception. Where do they go? And I guess I should ask, how much is it? Right? Is it like the cost of a new car? I mean, what are we talking here?
So you go to fmperception.com. We sell licenses by the number of machines that you want to support. The base license is $4.99 for a 2-machine license. Those 2 machines can be your home machine and your work machine, your desktop and laptop, your dev machine, and leave a copy on your server. Or honestly, it could be you and the person in the next cubicle. I don't care. And if you need more licenses for a larger team, they get successively cheaper as you go along. And as I said, FMPerception comes with FMComparison as well. That gets you that version of FMPerception and FMComparison and any version released in the next 12 months. And then after that point, you can renew your support for another 12 months for half the cost of a full license. Or you can continue to use whatever version was the last version released before your support expires. So it is not subscription, it is purchase with support.
All right, so I want to point out something on screen here real quick. I've jumped over here and I'm showing the Discord screen. So we have the link. All of you should have got this link already, but this is the link for FMLayoutLens, which for Ruben is the 3D amazing thing. FMPerception, FMComparison, then David is really awesome because he actually has office hours. That's a interesting term that's come back around in usage. That was always used by professors when students had no idea how the hell the calculus would work, and they would go to the professor, and the professor cared enough to answer the question. And so every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, you can go and visit Dave at FMPerception office hours and ask questions. Of course, the running assumption is that you've bought his product, so he's going to help you.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
No?
Nope. You can come and just say, hey, I got a question. How does it deal with this particular problem? Will it help me with my development situation? These conversations have a tendency to sprawl well outside of FMPerception, FMComparison, because you'll have other people on the call contributing ideas for how to resolve your particular FileMaker problem. But yeah, we get new users or potential future users all the time. Oh, there's also a fully functional 2-week trial of FMPerception.
I definitely need that. I definitely need that so I can see, because I'm doing work and yeah, so there we go. Well, very, very exciting. So we got the links for everyone. Does anyone have any follow-on questions? Because this is your captain speaking. We're going to be landing momentarily at Dallas-Fort Worth International. The local time is 8:55 and the outside temperature is 73 degrees. Can I have a upvote or downvote on Discord whether we invite, is he voted off the island or we have him back? How does that work on bring David back regularly? Oh, wow. Ruben says, yeah. Upvote. Top Cat says, bring him back. People are voting back. Another back. All right, you've not been voted off the island, David. Congratulations. You need to be on the show for at least another episode before you're... All right, everyone. We want to say thank you for David, the Proof+Geist team, and all the people that helped David and give him feedback. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. David, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.